Hello everyone, I'm Zoe Jackson and I run a company called Living the Dream. It's a performing arts company that I set up when I was 16 years old in 2006. And we now have a school of performing arts where we run classes and after-school clubs and put on shows. We have a professional dance company who do flash mobs and events. We've got a media company who are professional filmmakers and photographers. We've recently launched our charity, the Dream Foundation, to support young people that can't afford access to the arts. And we've recently launched the Living the Dream dance app with Virgin Media for their TiVo service. So all very exciting stuff. So it all came about when I was 16. I loved doing performing arts, and I got into something called the National Youth Theatre. And I needed to raise £2,000 to do a course. And I couldn't afford it, and my parents couldn't afford it. So I decided to get some friends together and put on a show. Convinced my local school to give us a theatre for free. Called it Living the Dream. Decided it would be run entirely by young people, as I didn't want adults around. And it worked, and I raised double what I needed. And it sold out, and everyone gave us amazing feedback and said that this is actually really a formula that works. Young people being in a youth-led environment where they have the freedom to express themselves and have fun and find their identity and their voice. So that's kind of where Living the Dream started. So I carried on putting on yearly showcases with young people in Hertfordshire. And then in 2008 to 2010, I was really lucky to receive £50,000 from my local council, which really enabled me to pay 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds to choreograph and direct and perform and photograph and design. And these young people were earning £500–600 for a couple of weeks' work, and it was possibly the best thing that had ever happened to them. So it really empowered them as well. So unfortunately, 2010, the government decided to cut arts funding, which sucked, and we were left with nothing. And my passion is really to provide affordable access for young people, and that's where the funding came in handy. So I then got into the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts. I graduated in 2010, and I loved my time there, and I carried on throughout my education, basically putting on shows during the summer holidays. And all the time while I was studying, I didn't really realise that this company would be my future. It was subsidising my education, which was amazing, but I didn't really think that I would be doing Living the Dream full time. So I always have big dreams. When I was at university, I decided to write to 200 celebrities, tell them my story, and said, I'd really like to take you for dinner so I can get some advice. And one of them wrote back to me and said, yes, I will take you for lunch. And I always remember the day that I rang my mum. I said, Mum, I'll go for lunch with Severus Snape. So I was Alan Rickman from Harry Potter, amazing actor. We went for lunch, and he gave me some incredible advice, and he's been in touch ever since, and he's kind of been a mentor that I can go to every now and then, and he's really been absolutely amazing. So I'll go on later to sort of my advice to you guys, but that's just one example about just going for it, and you never know what's going to happen. So when I graduated in 2010, my plan was really to start auditioning for West End shows and to be a professional performer. But I ended up having to have major surgery. So I was knocked out for about 3 months on the sofa, and I really thought about my future, and I wasn't really going to be able to perform anytime soon, so I spent the time planning my business. And it was then that I decided to launch the school. And nearly 2 years on, we've got 750 students, which is awesome. And then I watched the T-Mobile flash mob advert, which I'm sure you've seen lots of nodding faces, all seen. And I thought, I want to do one too. So I picked up the phone to St Pancras International, got through to the right guy, and he said, yes, let's do it. I'll give you £3,000. You roll with it, and let's raise some money for the Teenage Cancer Trust while we're at it. So it was amazing. We did that on New Year's Eve 2010, and you'll see it in a bit on the video. And that's really where everything started, and all of the doors for Living the Dream really opened. So last year as well, I got involved with the Virgin Media Pioneers, which is a really amazing online community for young entrepreneurs. And I was selected as one of 3 entrepreneurs to represent Richard Branson's Control Shift campaign. which sort of rolled out to take part and help towards getting the startup loans announced in the budget with Abdul over there. And it was absolutely amazing. I mean, I got a chance to meet David Cameron, told him the idea. He said, brilliant, yes, we're looking into it, it's brilliant. And we were like, meh, it's never going to happen. But it did, yay! So, yeah, and it first got announced and we thought it was 10 million and now it's 85. And I know that's over 3 years, but I'm also now really happy that with James and James Khan, one of the ambassadors, there's 12 of us for the startup loans. And we had an amazing roundtable discussion a couple of weeks ago, brainstorming ideas about how we're going to reach more young people and how we're going to get them involved in terms of mentoring and partners and things like that. So if you do have any ideas, please do come and chat with me and James in the break and we can feed it back to James Khan himself. So another thing, being part of Virgin Media Pioneers, I went for it again and managed to blag myself a meeting with the CEO of Virgin Media. And that was him saying, yeah, I'll give you 20 minutes and I'll give you some advice, meh, meh, meh. And I went in and I thought, no, I don't want advice, I'm going to pitch. And I said, do you mind if I just tell you an idea? And my idea was to create this sort of youth-led dance channel with Virgin Media somehow, pretty please. And he actually loved it. And then after several more meetings, kind of a year later, we've launched it. And it's an app on their TiVo service alongside things like eBay and YouTube and Spotify. And it's videos of performances and classes and interviews. And we've actually got our official launch event tomorrow night. Yay! So it's all going really well. And as part of the Control Shift campaign, which then led on to the startup loans, I was really lucky to meet, obviously, one of my biggest idols, Richard Branson. And not only that, but then I got invited to speak at his book launch to represent young entrepreneurs, and then invited to speak on a panel with him at GEC earlier this year, and then to have lunch with him. Yay! So you'll see some of the photos of me and him, and it's really been an amazing, well, PR opportunity, kind of, because the photos have opened so many doors, but he really is an amazing person, gave me some advice. And his business philosophy is all about doing good and having fun, and that the business will come. And that's something that I really believe in, that every business and every person out there has a moral obligation to make a positive impact on society today and give back, help others selflessly, and really that the karma will return when you need it the most. So the startup loans, really excited. And like I said, and like Lord Young said, we need your help. And please do try and get involved as a mentor and do what you can to support us. Because young people of today are tomorrow's leaders. And there are so many negative images of young people in the media, especially since the riots last year. People generalise us as scum, as hoodies, as no good, and we're lost causes a lot of the time. And I work really, really, really hard to promote the positive contribution that young people can make through the arts, and now I'm hoping that we can do the same through business. So I'm just going to show you a short video. You'll see some highlights of the flash mob that we did. Like I said, some photos of me and Richard Branson, and a video showing what our dance app on Virgin Media's TiVo is like. So hope you enjoy it.
This is a security announcement. This is a security announcement. Please ensure that your personal effects and your baggage are kept with you at all times. If you notice any suspicious items or behaviour, please report it immediately to a member of staff or to the British Transport Police.
touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this. Break it down. Stop. Hammer time.
Don't stop me, don't stop me. Hey, hey, hey. Don't stop me, don't stop me.
Tonight's the night. Let's live it up. Let's live it up. I got my money. Let's spin it up. Let's spin it up. Go out and smash it. Smash it. Like oh my god. Like oh my god. Jump out that sofa. Come on. Let's get Please don't stop the music.
From my hometown, memories.
Thank you. Now I just want to say a few words about mentoring and some things that I've learned on my journey that I hope will help some of you. So I was really lucky that my mum is a management consultant and she's been my mentor since I was 16 and still mentors me today. But I have had some other mentors, Alan Rickman, one of them. And then I was given a mentor through Virgin Media Pioneers, a lady called Priya Lakhani who runs an Indian food source company called Masala Masala. And I thought, oh no, how is she going to give me advice? Indian food, performing arts, doesn't really work. But she was actually incredible, and she gave me a kind of different perspective on my business and how I can really grow and expand and take things further. She also really helped me address the fact that I kept saying, we achieved this, and we achieved this sponsorship. And said to me, who actually did that? And I was like, well, I did. And she said, you need to take ownership as a young female entrepreneur of your successes and feel really confident about those. And then I have another mentor as well now called David McQueen, and he has been absolutely amazing in sort of outlining my strengths and weaknesses and utilising my team more effectively. He's also really helped me take some big risks. And have the confidence to just go for it. And as Lord Young said, mentoring doesn't just come from one person. We need to be seeking advice from lots of different people. And also, for some of the people out there that are successful or are older, you never stop learning. And I think if you were able to give up your time and mentor a young person, they might actually be able to help you too. Having some advice from a youth perspective might give you a new idea or help you solve a problem. And the power of networking. We are all here today, so I really hope that in the break you actually get up and start chatting to people because building and developing relationships is the key to making things happen. It's also about helping connect other people. You might not get anything out of it in return, but again, helping others selflessly, the karma will return when you need it most. And one of my favourite quotes is, chase the dream and not the competition. Now, if you're not passionate about what you do, then there's no point. You should be going home. you really need to find your inner drive and your inner passion for everything you do, as that really will drive you to success. Now, it's okay to make some mistakes. I mean, I've made big mistakes. I've lost loads of money. I've looked like an idiot numerous times. But as Lord Young said, I guess that's how it goes. And you can build on that, learn from those mistakes, and try not to make them again. And the last few things, really, one of the ethoses of living the dream is to believe in yourself. And if you can't believe in yourself and your idea, then you're not going to get anywhere. And what's the worst that can happen? Someone says no. Never mind, move on. You really need to inspire people. And I hope, maybe a little bit, that I've inspired you guys today to think about your dreams for the future and how you're going to help make those happen. I have massive dreams. I want to build an empire, and I want to basically take over the world. But that's going to happen. Rome isn't built in a day. Give me maybe 30 years. Maybe that'll happen then. But yeah, I hope you dream big. Dream big. Because I never imagined that 6 years after starting a business, I'd be exactly where I am now. And if you want to come and chat to me in the break, or James, please do. Tweet me, Zoe Jackson, LTD, or check our website out, livingthedreamcompany.co.uk, and maybe I can help you and you can help me. So thank you, and I hope one day you guys will get the chance to live your dreams.
Good morning, everybody. I only met Zoe just a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know about you, but I was just really inspired just to hear more fully about the story. So I think it deserves just another round of applause for Zoe, because it really was just fantastic. So thank you. So before I kind of kick off this morning, I've only got kind of around 10 minutes or so before we go into a break. So I just wanted to ask, though, for a volunteer, please, to come to the front of the room. Your hand I saw first, so just the lady just in the green. If you just come down to the front, please, that's fantastic. Thank you. Round of applause for the volunteer. Great. If you just come close to the lectern. Cool. I know you've introduced yourself already, but do you want to just say hello to the audience and just one thing that you want the audience to know? It's your opportunity for the room, just for literally 10 seconds. Go.
I'm Lauren, and I run a brand new business called Mentor Me, with exciting activities. So if you want to come and talk to us, that'd be nice to speak to all of you.
A round of applause for So I just want to give you a gift. So a big box of jelly beans. There you go. And also a book that I'll come back to later called The Naked Leader. So just another round of applause, please. Thank you very much. So this morning, for me, and I'm really, really pleased to be here, but it's kind of to share and actually not do a lot of talking, but I will come on to that. But what I want to do is get you to think, why didn't more of you volunteer? In the room, why did you not volunteer? I'm not going to ask a question now. What I want you to do, I can see a lot of people also sitting by themselves, which for me is completely distressing and very, very painful when you're at an event, hopefully useful to meet people. So what I want you to do is go to the person sitting next to you and share with them why you didn't volunteer, because I'm going to be picking on you. So please find someone next to you. You can all do this. Move up, speak to somebody, and I'm going to ask you, why did you not volunteer?
Oh, really? Oh, sorry to just interrupt just 1 second.
Go for it, go for it. Scott, hold on,
yeah,
silence for Scott.
Oh, Scott.
Okay, what, Scott?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to say a very, 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 very huge thank you to everybody in the room and those outside, because marketing for Startup Britain, the hashtag, is now trending #1 on Twitter.
Woo! Okay, that's a good opportunity. Unfortunately, we don't have too much time, but I'm going to now just ask, why didn't you volunteer? Anyone? Why didn't you volunteer? Yeah, go for it. Okay, absolutely. So the first answer, she normally always does. Fair enough. Anyone else? Why didn't you volunteer? Yeah. Slow reaction time. Yeah, it's a Monday morning maybe. It's just, I'm not quite into my stride yet. Anyone else? Why didn't you volunteer? You were what was that? You were tweeting, getting us trending. Fair enough. Okay, well, I'll show you probably the reason why you didn't volunteer and why you're not also volunteering now is because of this fear of failure. and this fear of something going wrong. And you didn't think ever in your wildest dreams that you would get a box of jelly beans, an opportunity to promote whatever it is that you're doing today, and also an amazing book written by a guy called David Taylor. None of you thought that kind of positive, something positive would come out of it. And that's very kind of sad, and that's kind of a mindset and a mentality. And so I just wanted to kind of share a few kind of 3 key stories with you from today of my experiences. I'm a founder of a company. I set up the company when I was 22. But before I get on to that, I just want to share with you the book that I gave away is written by a guy called David Taylor. And he's written a book called The Naked Leader. And before I go into that, though, I want to share it just in terms of your thoughts. And there's a famous quote written by a guy called Frank Outlaw. And he said, "What's your thoughts? They become words. What's your words? They become actions. What's your actions? They become habits. What's your habits? They become character. What's your character? It becomes your destiny." And just thinking when I asked for a volunteer just at the beginning of the session, why you didn't volunteer, and thinking about your thoughts and how they impact, and think about every opportunity you're presented, everything that you do, and the thoughts that go on, and what stop you from doing. Did anyone else stop you in the room from coming up here? Was there someone that was holding you back, stuck to your chair? Did someone insert some Velcro that meant you couldn't come up? You stopped yourself. And that's a key message that I just want to kind of share with you today, and just to take kind of that one thing. So coming back to David Taylor, I was going to the airport to the Philippines, and I was going to do a charity placement out there, and a friend of mine bought me this book. I didn't know what the book, I'd never heard of it before, and it's called The Naked Leader. And I started reading this book, and it really inspired me. And literally on the first page and on the back of the cover of the book, I think it says a really core message, which really kind of stuck with me. Imagine if you couldn't fail. Who would you be? Where would you go? And what would you do? So that was, for me, like a really, really powerful message. And I ended up being in the Philippines, as I said, and I ended up being a drug rehabilitation center, not because I had a problem, because I was going to visit a charity out there. And it was amazing because those kids, they chose, I don't know, anyone else been to the Philippines? It's not a very common place to go, but the kind of the disparity and the poverty is unbelievable. But these children had chosen to be in this drug rehabilitation center to get them on the right path. But what struck me is even if you've got a map, if you don't know where you're going, you're still lost. And that, for me, is a lot about in terms of mentoring and helping people understand, ask the questions that we don't necessarily know to ask ourselves, but they ask us the questions that we haven't even thought of yet. And that, for me, is really, really powerful and really important. So has anyone in the room written to an author? I know you've written to a few people. Anyone written to an author? A few people in the room. So I wrote to David Taylor. I sent him an email. I said, really inspired by your book, and I'd love to meet up with you. And this is back in 2003. And he agreed to meet with me. And so he's been kind of informally mentoring me and along the way in stages and challenging me and questioning me, and has been a really, really great person. And so I really like what Lord Dung said around as well, the different types of mentors and the different people that are there. And I disagreed with something in the audience that someone said around, where's the program for me? You know, there was no program that meant I could read a book and write to an author, and then now he's, my mentor. There's no program for that. It's what's stopping you, and thinking about, again, that quote I said at the beginning about kind of what's your thoughts and how that impacts on you. So to give a bit more context, my kind of second mentoring story was when I was at university, and I set up I had this idea, and the original idea, bear with me, imagine you're all students in the room. So I did some market research. So if you're all students, put up your hands if you want 2-for-1 cinema tickets. Does that sound good? Put up your hands if you want 2-for-1 meals. Yeah, that sounds good. So we thought, okay, great, lots of students want that stuff. And I had been a brand manager for Yellow Pages. I'd worked with around 30 brands while I was a student, so I know lots of people wanted to promote to students. And I thought if we could create a website that could help both those groups of people, students and businesses, then that would be a really great thing. So I had this idea originally, and I was on the brink of kind of deciding whether to do it or not. And I then actually invited David Taylor to speak at one of my events that I was organizing. And he came to speak, and he said this message, imagine if you couldn't fail. Who would you be, where would you go, and what would you do? And I was going to apply for jobs, but I thought in that moment there was no choice. I had to set up my business, and it was going to work. And there was no, is it, isn't it, what's going to happen? There's just a fear of failure, and it's not just about thinking positive, but it's around that follow-through, and it's around that mindset. And so my brother, and now my business partner, he came up with the name, and what was the name? It was called studentbeans.com. Why beans? It was about baked beans on toast being the staple diet for student life. And so Student Beans, then the idea and very much a vision of a brand becoming a staple diet for students across the UK. And so we had this idea, we had the concept, it was going to work, absolutely fantastic, but we needed some money. So I left university, I was unemployed, and we went to the bank, and unfortunately the bank said, look, we're not going to give you a loan, it's a .com, everyone's burnt this to 2005 by the previous experience of kind of .coms and stuff, but I had this, solid business plan. And someone said, look, you're living in a certain area of Birmingham, there were certain criteria that I matched, and they introduced me to the Prince's Trust. And so we applied to the Prince's Trust, and we had to pitch. Similar to Dragon's Den, there were 3 local business people, and I had to share my idea. And we didn't have a website at that time, but we had interest from a few local businesses. And we literally then went and spoke to them, and we got a low-interest loan, so £3,000 from the Prince's Trust, which went straight into helping design a website. But bear in mind, we had no website, we had no following, we just had a holding page saying, coming soon. And it was the Prince's Trust, not just the funding, but fundamentally the mentors. And we got some fantastic mentors from DLA Piper, which was the local law firm, who were absolutely amazing, who provided the structure, the questions, the challenges. And I would go some of my days, literally 6:30 in the morning, business breakfast, networking. I'd be out knocking on doors, being told, no, what are you doing? No, again and again and again. But DLA Piper were in central Birmingham, so they were a fantastic place that I could just go and knock. I called them up and going, I'm having a really hard day. Can I come and share and be a shoulder almost to cry on, but also to share the successes with them. And they were absolutely fantastic. But one of the things was I failed some of my finance exams at university, and I'm not proud of that. But I retook them, but I applied myself, and the Prince's Trust helped provide some structure. So every month we had to look at those numbers. And they weren't very good in the first few months, but it made us question, and it got us into a routine and provided fantastic staple and kind of guidance and advice, which was absolutely brilliant. And the Prince's Trust, I wouldn't be here today absolutely without them, and the support from Mark Bidmore and Emily Avis, who tirelessly helped and supported. The first week we launched, someone copied all of the logos that we had on our website and copied all of the text, and they helped pro bono write a letter and made sure that then stopped, and those kind of things. But also, in a similar way to Zoe with the curry story, I don't know how I thought they could help me. They don't understand the internet necessarily, but it didn't matter because it was around those kind of questions, and they believed in my ideas. Because we're at a marketing event, I also thought I'd share some of the successes that we had. Does anyone remember Danny Baker going door to door with the Daz Doorstep Challenge? So I ended up going and creating these bean window stickers, knocking on people's houses and saying, look, this website's launching, you're going to get lots of free stuff and deals and promotions. If you put this window sticker in your house, you could win something for your house. That summer, we then went to Krispy Kreme, and Krispy Kreme gave us 100 boxes of Krispy Kreme donuts. Whilst people were doing their exams, we knocked on the door, we said, have you heard of Student Beans? And everyone said yes, and we gave them then a box of Krispy Kremes as excitement. And I got phone calls literally from people in Bristol and in Manchester saying, I hear you're doing a promotion. And I know there's going to be a lot this week about kind of marketing and online and social media, but it's all about making it social by design. For me, that's a core thing with our business, and our opportunity was, if you're going to go to the cinema, you're going to go with someone else, so you're going to talk about it. And it's naturally something exciting. We work with a lot of brands, from Apple to Microsoft to The Economist, some huge global brands. And the way that we work with them is they've got a campaign idea, and we go back and go, are you excited about this? Are you really excited about this? Because if you're not, then why do you think that young people are going to be excited about it? And we push back almost and go, our users are almost our clients. So conscious of time, just kind of racing through, my third kind of mentoring experience I wanted to share with you was I was at Microsoft's offices, and again, I want to share kind of outside of a structured campaign, and Reid Hoffman was there, who's the founder of LinkedIn, and he was here to inspire more UK businesses to create more billion-dollar or billion-pound businesses. And the reason why he says we don't is because we get happy with the 5 million or 10 million, we kind of sell out to maybe bigger companies. And this vision of creating something much bigger, and how can we we do that? So I'm in this session, and we're in different streams, and suddenly there's a bomb scare. So the top 300 UK CEOs and founders, and around 30 people came over from Silicon Valley, are all evacuated onto the streets of Victoria. So we're all standing there, and a number of people just leave, and I think, wow, this is a great opportunity, because there are going to be lots of people around that we know they're all kind of the top most important people in the country, or these big CEOs, and me kind of mixing with them. And so I just start talking to this guy, who later turns out to be the ex-CEO and president of lastminute.com, a guy called Ed Cam. And as a business, it's not the same, but I have aspirations to grow a global business similar to lastminute.com, or maybe bigger one day. And so that in kind of 20 minutes, those conversations that happened then led into more meetings. And again, someone now that's at the end of the phone, and very much at the end of the meal, the end of the email, that's very much open to and receptive to the conversations and to what we could do and what we could have, and sharing and ideas and inspiration. And so again, I want to say it's not a structured program. You don't need that. There are people around you. I'm sure there are people in the room today that could help you, that could share. And I believe everyone also has something to give, and we all have something as well that we can learn. So 2 other very brief mentors. One of them is Daniel Nabarro, who's the founder of figleaves.com, who's now on our board, non-exec director on the board. And he, again, mentored us. Every 6 months, we'd have a big challenge. We'd contact them. And then we said, we're thinking about putting a board together. Do you know anyone that might be interested? And he said, every time I see you, you've moved the business forward, and I'd love to be part of that process. And another lady, Leanne Hoffman, who when I was 17, I did Young Enterprise. And again, this whole concept about learning by doing and getting out there, improving. Yes, there are, in terms of different ages, but young people can do things and can create jobs and do some fantastic things. And she helped us. I was a mentor. And after the Prince's Trust kind of phased out in terms of the specific mentoring there, and I moved back to London, Leanne then helped me over the next year provide some structures and mentoring. And I reached out and I said, look, you helped me with Young Enterprise, and I'd love for you if you are able to support me. And she offered to do that completely for free in her own goodwill. But it's amazing what she said that she learned from me and what I was able to give and reciprocate and to give each other. So very conscious time, just coming back together. But I'll leave you with a quote that one of my mentors shared with me that really inspired me as well. That 20 years from now, you'll be far more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by those that you did. So throw off the bow lines, sail away from the safe harbour, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover, by Mark Twain. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. Now, I think we're just another 5 minutes before we go to our break. If that's okay, we were due to go to break, but I think with these guys here, I think we should take an opportunity for questions. The hands are going up already. First question.
Lord Young, Zoe, and James. Inspiring conversations. My question is one I actually struggle with. I know you're passionate about your businesses, but what do you do when you're not working? How do you recharge your batteries?
How do I recharge? Like normal people, I go to the cinema, I go traveling. I'm going away on Friday, which is exciting. I mean, it's kind of work-life balance, but I don't feel like a lot of what I'm doing is working. It comes from a passion, and I think conversely, I feel like business years are like dog years. So maybe I've worked a lot of years, but it only feels like work maybe for 6 months out of the 7 years that I've really worked, because I love it. I love what I do, meeting people, engaging, creating something, making a difference, all of those things. And I believe, like Zoe was talking about in terms of karma and giving back, and I do give so much, but it's reaped in rewards and benefit, and I love what I do, so it's not a problem. I've still got so much energy and everything, and yeah.
I'm the same. Is this way? I literally work 24/7 at the moment, and have done for the last 6 years. Trying to run a business while studying is tough, and then doing it full time. I mean, my friends and family tell me off and make me stop and say, have a drink, go out, go shopping, go to the cinema. But I really, same with James, like I'm consumed by it, and it's me, it's who I am, and it's not work. I love it.
Yeah, if I could just add to this, I think it's actually a great mistake to work 24/7, if you don't mind me saying.
Not literally, but I work very, very hard. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I assume you have sleep time as well.
Yes.
But it's important to see the wood for the trees. If you're not careful, and I've done this, you go working away, and you're going in the wrong direction. So occasionally you have to stop and say to yourself, And frankly, every weekend I used to take Sunday morning off. Why Sunday morning, I'm not sure. And just think about things, think about what the business was doing, where we should be going, what we should be trying to do. And every now and then you realize that you're missing something, you know, and it's very important. And the other thing is, I get mentoring from people I work with, who work for me as well as I do with other people, because exchanging ideas with people, it's very, this actually applies most to political life, but it is very difficult if you get consumed by the day-to-day not to realize the whole picture. So my advice is, work hard, yes, certainly. Every now and then stop and look. Maybe even smell the roses, who can tell? Thanks.
Any other questions? A question over here. We're now down to number 3 on the trending on Twitter, but we are still ahead of you two can fly into space with Richard Branson, so that's a good thing. Your question, sir,
Hey
sorry.
guys, I'm Nick. I run an events company called Original Sin, which we started off at university. We came over to London about a year ago. So we came over from the southwest, you know, yeah, these guys, let's go to London, let's do this business and stuff like that. Most of the people that we've seen and come across with in London, we're actually based in Victoria, are often quite a bit older than us, and you know, different people who we're speaking to, etc. One of the things which we could benefit from are, you know, speaking to guys like you, who, you know, young people running their own business. You know, you mentioned you were in London, so I wasn't sure where you were based, but you mentioned Hertfordshire, you know, London area, doing things in Pancras. What for you? We've only recently started taking advantage of other people who have got more experience, who've got more advice, you know, taking from helping business practice. From your perspective, in terms of, say, for instance, cost or anything else, advice for, you know, where you're based, any sort of funding advice, or where you can save cost, you know, with office space or anything, any sort of things along the trade which you've come up with, which we could benefit from.
It's a very broad question, and feel free to come and speak to me afterwards. But one thing I thought I'd share was when we launched originally in Birmingham, and to go across the country, the biggest expense was accommodation. And I know it's not necessarily always possible to do it, but we ended up going to the Novotel group, who own Ibis and the Novotel hotels, and on a very localized level, went to the local manager and showed her a local newspaper article. And I said, look, we've done really well in Birmingham, we're launching across the country, we need accommodation. If we did a barter deal, basically, and we offered them £5,000 worth of advertising in exchange for hotel nights. And they agreed, and they gave us 70 hotel nights, and breakfast included, which meant I could travel the country. And I'm not saying that's the full-time, long-term answer for your business office needs, but it's about being clever and strategic. There's a fantastic book called Marketing Judo, which talks about using your opponent's weight and leveraging, you know, their assets. So, you know, Novotel, they've got these hotel rooms. They're not going to be at capacity all the time. And, you know, in terms of Regis, I know they've extended in terms of office space and an opportunity to go there. There's also Google Campus, which is just off Old Street. You can go and use that for free. They've got amazing Wi-Fi, connections, events. There's also something called Gradpreneur, which is around graduates setting up businesses and plugging into a network. There is so, when you start looking and you get under the skin, there are so many things going on, and it's about asking the questions. And in terms of the thing being young and being older and stuff, I just wish I'd been more bullshit and just done more when I was younger. You know, unfortunately, I'm a little over 25 now. I know I was introduced as 25. I'm unfortunately 29 now. So I started the business started 7 years ago. And I just wish I'd just gone in more and been like, look, I'm 22 and I'm doing something great and I'm employing people. You know, now we employ over 30 people, and it's great, but I'm older now. And I just wish I'd done more younger. So keep going.
Just quickly, I just want to say the same thing. Like, I blagged a theatre for free, which cost £2,000. And when I started a school, I convinced the school to give us a free terms of rehearsal space. And you said you're an events company. I don't know, I can't see you, but I would suggest offering an office or a business or whatever the opportunity to throw an event for them. Tell them you give them a free party in exchange for some free access, and you never know what might happen.
There's actually a really interesting organisation called Somewhere Too, which were put together by one of our member agencies called Liberty, and Channel 4 and the National Lottery Heritage Fund. And Somewhere Too is about giving space over to young entrepreneurs and young people to practice their creative talents. So it's just another possibility, depending if you mentioned if it was events that you do, they're a really good organisation to tap into. So somewhere to be worth having a look at.
I think they're somewhere_2 on Twitter.
We'll take one more question. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Alex Grant. I'm from a startup called Userly. Userly is actually a platform to help startups to kind of get feedback on their ideas, and we're launching in August. So if today you want to talk to me about it, please to talk to anybody. My question is a different question for you guys, and it's something that I hope some other people in the room here will share this issue that I have personally. So I've just joined the startup in the last 6 months because I met a guy by chance at an event, and now working together, and I'm loving it. It's fantastic. However, being kind of an entrepreneurial background, I've also involved in other startups beforehand, and also got another couple of businesses of my own starting up. Now, do you think it's a clever idea to be a scattergun approach to entrepreneurship, but I'm trying everything, or do you think you should be focusing on one thing only all the time?
Can I just jump in? When I got my mentor, Priya, the Masala lady, she had a go at me and said, you're spreading yourself too thin, because I was like, I'm going to launch an agency and a charity and do this and do that, and I want to do everything. And she said that you really need to focus on one thing. And I think really it depends on who you are, and I managed to find the best of both. I mean, it's going to take me longer to do more things, but I've managed to sort of rein in and focus on how I need to move forward and what bits of the business I need to focus on and develop.
I think it's about playing to your strengths, and I think there are great examples of successful entrepreneurs that surround themselves by the best teams, and it doesn't mean you need to stop doing an idea, but you can find people and cultivate people if you've got kind of these other business ideas. But there's a fantastic book by Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and you're reading it at the moment, fantastic. So one of them is keep the main thing, and it's start with the end in mind as well. And if you've got clarity on those things, I think you can do multiple things, but it is important to keep, what's the most important thing. And I think Steve Jobs, they had a brainstorming session kind of once a year. They would go away together, and they'd all write down all these big ideas. He goes, right, okay, what are we going to stop? What are we going to cut out? What are we not going to do from all these ideas? And what 3 things are we going to do? There's a fantastic, if you come and ask me afterwards, a fantastic link around, only 3 things. Once you go past 3 focuses, then the chances of those things happening, it just kind of diminishes massively. And so people think, oh yeah, I'll have 8 initiatives that I'm going to work on. It's proven that the more you do, then kind of the less there is. But there's a balance, and I think it's about knowing yourself and understanding that balance.
Yeah, I just say that all my life's experience is the importance is focus and follow through. Decide what you're going to do, but above all, follow through and do it. I've seen so many people fail who start a dozen different things and go from one to the other to the other. Focus, follow through.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you to James, to Zoe, and to Lord Young. Thank you very much indeed.